Chapter 2, Boldness. In 2015, an idea was trending. It was everywhere and nowhere in particular, like that famous tipping point idea where monkeys on one side of an island learned to use a tool, and suddenly monkeys on the other side of the island who had never seen the tool or the other group suddenly started using it. The zeitgeist had changed. There was something in the ether. The idea of the damsel in distress was out of vogue. I was raised on fairy tales and romance, always a woman waiting for Prince Charming, Rapunzel stuck in the tower, Sleeping Beauty in a coma, Ariel who gave up her natural body and her voice, talk about symbolism, for a man. I'd spent 9 years in distress, a damsel, swooning, trudging in the ashes, confident my prince of a husband would rescue me, our marriage, our sex life, our love. His quest was just to the doctor. His dragon, just an unknown ailment. And I was his lady love, the one he'd vowed to love and honor till death do us part. How could this tale go wrong? All my training said he would slay the dragon and return with the Holy Grail. Damsels in distress were always rescued, always. But this was reality, not fantasy. Turns out I had to be my own hero, slay the dragon of life on my own again, and enter the dating pool on a quest. After 16 dates, I had my Holy Grail, and it was so worth it. I had rescued myself, gone on my crusade through bogs, briars, and the valley of filth, and arrived at Prince Charming's castle. I no longer needed a dating app. It was time to stop receiving inboxes, slews of emails, and enjoy my plunder. But before I deleted my profile, something unexpected happened. I was just about to push the button and got a message. I almost ignored it, but something said, check it out. CM, San Antonio. About 8 years older than me, online now and wanting to talk now. I'd never had a live conversation in the app, and I declined. He countered stating, I know it's late. I know your profile says you only want someone local, but you intrigue me. Give me 5 minutes. If I bore you and don't make you laugh, hang up. Here's my real phone number. Call me anonymously. I was intrigued. I called. We laughed and talked 5 hours and talked every day for 2 years straight. And then we met, but that's a story for another chapter, another year. I'd grown to love my castle. I adored Prince JJ, but all things come to an end. He was leaving, getting transferred, and he, still a prince who put me first, suggested I find a replacement. Part of me was annoyed by the suggestion, maybe even a little hurt. Part of me was hoping the transfer would fall through, that he would be needed in Houston longer. Most of me could not picture replicating anything like this with anyone, ever. I had been alive 45 years and had never experienced this type of dating. But eventually, somewhat half-heartedly, I gave in. This time around was different. 2015, divorced 6 months now, used to regular and amazing sex. I was nothing like the damsel in distress who had posted a profile pic and expected no one to respond. I was glad I had deleted the old profile. I was different, new, improved, much more comfortable in my skin, unapologetic about my sensuality, bolder, blunter, braver. I shed the last dating site and started over. Now, before I go any further, let's discuss dating site profiles. I probably don't have to tell you this, but I am not a picture taker. I avoid them if at all possible. I knew when I made a profile, I'd have to have some. My phone was crap. I hadn't yet traded it in, and I noticed on a mall trip with my sons buying prom gear that there was a photo kiosk. Voila, 2 pictures. 2 pictures I didn't want to take in the first place. 2 pictures while I was still going through my divorce. Can you see the resignation on my face? 2 pictures when I think It had been 6 years since I'd been on a date because my husband wouldn't take me out. 2 pictures when I hadn't been touched for about 8 months and was absolutely terrified of putting up a profile that got no response. Looking at my chest in these pictures, I have no idea how I thought that I'd get no response. I also have no idea why I thought I was extremely overweight. Looking at these pics and thinking back to my self-image, I realized I had low self-esteem. But 6 months later, I was in a different place, mentally, emotionally, physically. Those profile pics, that profile description, did not fit who I had become. And besides, after hanging out on an app, it seems to get haunted by the conversations that went nowhere, the disrespectful virtual catcalls, the obscene suggestions that you deleted but still come to mind whenever that app's icon flashes on the screen. Deleting the profile and building a new one on a different site was a palate cleanser. Coincidentally, around this time, I found out that JJ himself was a palate cleanser, according to urban slang. He was my fling that cleared the debris of my divorce, preparing me for my next serious relationship. I don't remember what pics I used for my new profile, but I do remember doing an internet search on how to write a fab dating profile. Before, I'd expected no responses. This time, I was ready for a slew, and I wanted my profile to narrow the stream to a small trickle. Below are the guppies this new profile snagged. Date 17. Mr. Metrosexual. All was going well at Denny's till he asked to see my hands and replied, "You have nice nails, but my girl will hook you up, boo. Exfoliate you, do your cuticles." I expected a snap and a head flourish, and even though those were not forthcoming, I saw Metro as someone I might take on a spa day, but I would never be attracted to a minute more. Dates 18 and 19. Mr. Clean, who looked like the proverbial cartoon, just black, and the musky mentalist. Both had body odor so strong it almost made my eyes smart, and I made an excuse and left. Dates 20 and 21. Sugar Daddy was offering just that. Funds for sex and attention. A married man who hadn't had sex with his wife in years. They even had separate bedrooms. He stayed just so she wouldn't get half. The bassist, gorgeous, sexy, took me back to Rico Suave in my head, but he was not married, just attached to his 3rd baby mama, mother to 2 of his 6 kids. He was on tour and gave me a walk through the tour bus, the venue, and an autographed album. Dates 22 and 23. Date 22, Vincent Price, took me to an Irish pub with stairs I thought I might kill myself in, climbing in heels. It was dark, dingy, and grimy. I think they had this place in mind when the phrase greasy spoon was coined. I didn't want to eat, drink, or even touch anything. Then he began talking about death. I tried to change the subject, but he wasn't having it. He had the most charming English accent, but all I could think about was asking if he would do the Vincent Price laugh. I refrained. But for the second time after meeting up with the guy, I went into super scrub mode that night. Date 23. The beautician spent our whole date describing his 9 kids who needed a mother because theirs had passed away. Coincidentally, he showed up in the people you might know on Facebook a year later, and he was in fact married by then, having found his replacement bride. Dates 24 to 26. Rappers 1, 2, and 3, there's nothing really to describe. No personality, no conversation, no interest on my part. I was beginning to wonder, did men memorize the lines they used online? And in the initial conversations, were there some scripts they were reading from? How could these guys seem like candidates 1 minute, online, on the phone, but in person deserved a 1 dead fish rating? Dates 27 and 20.